Welcome to the Symphony of Realities podcast, boldly taking you where no podcast has gone before. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation as you settle into your X, Y, and Z coordinates within time and space. Here are your hosts, Christopher Anatra and Sean Bond.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Symphony of Realities podcast. Today, we have a very special podcast. We have two guests, Yssah and Isaac, and we're going to be introducing them in a moment. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of interesting things. Mayan calendar, cosmology, tesseract, hypercubes, the solar eclipse coming up in Mexico in October, a movie called Code 12. It's going to be a really interesting show. And so I hope you've settled into your X, Y, and Z coordinates within space and time. And remember, in the words of Van Halen, right now is everything. Catch your magic moment right now, because that's where we have our power, in the now. And also dream on. So here we go. So my name's Christopher Anatra. You know me as a quantum businessman. I'm with my co-host, Sean Bond. Sean, how are you?
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm great. I'm having a great day. Sun's shining and yeah, some interesting solar activity coming in. Yeah, and again, I'm Sean Bond, Psionic League, psionicleague.com, YouTube, and yeah, we're expanding what we can possibly do, how we can solve problems, how to make this world a heavenly place, how to bring in the next age of peace, and what is coming to us from the macro to the micro. Can you tell us more? And can you introduce yourself, Yssah? Thank you.
My pleasure. Well, first of all, thank you again for sharing your space for this invitation. I'm very glad to be here and very excited actually for all the information that we are going to be conveying. As Christopher was mentioning, there is a lot going on. So there is a lot of information as well to be shared in order to generate that balance and that coherence. So I want also to present Isaac, my dear friend and colleague, Isaac Rodriguez. And as we are sharing a lot of information and together, so and even planning a very interesting events to come, like a workshop and a trip that we will be talking about later. And very glad that you can be here, Isaac, speaking and sharing also your wisdom and your knowledge.
Thank you.
And then get to you.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I'm Isaac. I'm a sidereal astrologer. Sidereal astrology is the astrology that connects with the actual constellations in the sky. So I've been on a mission trying to figure out why is the mass population connecting with tropical astrology, which is disconnected from the constellations, not knowing that they're disconnected from the constellations. And with that mission comes searching for who is this 13th zodiac sign and how can we trace him through civilization. And I have a lot of answers. That's how I met Yssah in Egypt. I was searching for the connection of the 13th zodiac sign to Imhotep, and that I have a lot of information on that. And from there, here we are. And I think you're going to play the movie Code 12 I was in, where I talk about what I found in Egypt.
Yeah.
And the connection, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a trailer for this movie called Code 12, which is, it's now just making like the circuit of independent movies right now. Like, I don't think anyone could actually watch it at the moment.
Yeah.
Like a film festival, right?
Yeah, right now it's on the circuit of the film festivals and it's winning awards pretty much at every festival. And the producer is Melissa Tittle, who was the director of content of Gaia TV.
Oh.
And yeah, and it's the production behind it is Forbidden Knowledge by Billy Carson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of major players in this film, and I'm surprised that I'm in it. And the funny story there is I emailed her out of the blue while I was in Egypt. and she said, "Wow, I've been writing this script, and every question that was unanswered that I had, your email, I can literally plug everything you mentioned in your email, and it answered all the missing questions." So that's how this whole film is, the energy behind it. And
Cool.
with that comes a lot of disruptions like we experienced last week when we shared truth.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of blocking that goes on. So good to
Yeah.
point that out.
So yeah, we definitely have some big truth bombs to drop with this episode. We were having issues the other week when we were trying to record it, so we had to like wait. So without any further ado, I'm going to play the movie trailer. It's only about
Okay.
Yeah.
There's only one symbol that has haunted me since I was a child. A dream that has turned into an obsession. Something is trying to get us to put the puzzle together. They have laid out codes everywhere to understand it.
This goes back centuries. There may have been some type of relic or landmark left behind.
The Great Pyramid was a power generator. It was a device that would literally alter the frequency of the planet.
The Ark of the Covenant. It functioned as a conduit between Earth and the field.
The zodiac is actually a clock. And right now that clock is broken. We can't read it.
The machine we live in has its own built-in mechanism to take over. So if you don't take over, it will take over.
Eternal or eternal life. That is connected to the base 12 source code. Why was it shifted over to base 10?
My goal is to uncover the lost technology, activate the hub, and reset the simulation to make it easier for the human expansion. Of course, if the simulation doesn't get in my way.
Woo! All right.
Yeah.
There you go. I can't wait to see it. And
I know.
yeah, and like I saw you like briefly there, Isaac. So yeah, it's going to be good. And the whole base 12 numbering system, like I understand the importance of that, and the base 10 system that we're in now, more efficient with I think the Sumerians at the very least we're using base 12, and yeah, there's a lot of advantages to that. And we see 12 everywhere, right? A dozen of this, or 12 months in the year, the days broken into 2 12-hour pyramids, and Jesus had 12 apostles, and like the list goes on, and related to 144,000 12 times. So yeah, so I'm all for it. So cool.
Yeah. 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 And I just talk about how the zodiac, it's used as a clock. We know that through archaeoastronomy, we use the zodiac as a clock. So, pretty much what happened is, the story, we got astrology taken away from us. It was pagan, we got slaughtered. And then when they gave us the clock back, they gave us the mechanism back. They gave us the back and it was broken. So it's like the kid receiving his toys back and they're broken, and it's like, go play. And then you wonder why the kid is like, not developed fully. It's because you gave me a broken toy, a broken watch. That's why I'm late for lunch. The watch doesn't work. So we're late for lunch as humanity, as a civilization, we're late for lunch.
Yeah, and you wonder what would happen if they put the capstone back on the pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Would it activate? Would the toy start working again? You put the batteries in it, or whatever it's missing?
Yeah.
I remember hearing somebody that went up to the top of the pyramid and took like a makeshift type of device that was kind of like a frame of a pyramid cap with some foil, and it started building up charge and having an effect. So it's like it can do something.
I heard of that. Yeah, I think I saw photos of that. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Wow.
so Yssah, you have a presentation, so I figured that's probably the best place to start, right?
Sure. We can do that. And well, now that Isaac was mentioning about our reencounter in Egypt, the first time that we met in this body, yes, Egypt has been bringing a lot of a very important role throughout all this decoding and unifying all this information from science and even considering spirituality, because that's the main translation that it has been given through the perception of the ancient ones throughout all these codes that they have been throwing. And that something beautiful, and that I was sharing on Nassim's last trip in Egypt, was precisely how these codes are related, and like due to what I mainly specialize, is how these codes are showing how the human was designed, the human hologram was designed, and in this the astrology, the zodiac plays a major role, because we are talking about patterns, locating patterns throughout the human hologram. And now if we relate it to the pyramids that you were just mentioning about the Grand Pyramid, well, here in Mexico, we have also everywhere in the world, we have all these pyramids, these huge oscillators that are communicating through water conducts as the interface, in order to align precisely to the galactic trace, to a galactic trace, to the constellations, to the pulsars, and so on. So I'm going to start sharing, having said this, the presentation. And so there, okay. Here we are, okay. Well, so this is very basic. And we know that the basics, the simplest information is the essence. So related to the zodiac signs, and this is some of the specific points that Isaac and I will be sharing throughout this conversation, this talk with you guys, because if we say that the clock is broken, why? Because there is not a coherence in between the intermittence of our biology, the earth, and the holographic system of how the human was designed. So if we don't have the accurate origin, point of origin, like as you were saying, the X and Y, the coordinate, the true coordinate of origin, how can we know where it ends? So then everything is misplaced and is moved. So this is what happens with Pisces. Pisces, or how as I call it, Pi and Isis, this Isis code, again, Egypt. And the Genesis, the Genesis, how the primordial codes where everything started. So then we have Pi Isis or Pisces. And it doesn't matter if in English it's with E, because if we go to the Latin root, then we can get, and the Greek root, then we can get the code. So Pisces is the sign that aligns to the sun in March. And so why has this, for years and years and years, humanity has been following a system where the order is not accurately set, and it's precisely to generate a time system where the biology feels like you have a clock ticking the time out, and you're running out of fuel because it's limited. And this is also related to the free energy, because once the coherence in the system, the zodiac system, is settled, then also the free energy is running, because everything is tuned. And what is time if it's not intermittence? It's just the rhythm, in which the frequency of the energy is flowing. It's generating the motion, the vital motion. So if we see the main thing about Pisces has been this issue about the two forces that are going against, that are going in opposite directions. And then that leads us to duality, not even polarity. That leads us to duality. And you can also ask yourselves, like, how can this influence so much human behavior? Well, if we are talking about quantum physics, and then we are coming from that to a holographic field, and we say that everything is a hologram, and there are two kinds of matrix mainly, in that the matrix that throughout how everything was designed, everything that we conceive as a reality is projected as a hologram. However, through the interferential waves, it densifies, enriches the matter through knots, like the Isis knot. So when we're talking about this, then we can see that, imagine how you encode a program in your computer. The codes throughout the codes that you use, the algorithms that you use to encode in a specific program so that you can see as you see it when you turn on your computer, all of that background, we can say that it's a hologram. It's how the patterns are created. So if the pattern is not in an accurate order, then it generates what I was mentioning before. So here we have the most basic form, that it's the Vesica Pisces. When the fishes come together, the two fishes, how does the fishes come together and not go in opposite directions as it has been going due to the disorder? There needs to be a third force, because otherwise you have E to B, and it's generating just a linear flow. So what do you need in order to bring the two forces together? You need a third, and that's the Trinity. That's the famous Trinity. And that Trinity is related to Cetus, what I have been showing. So here we have in one circle, just one circle, the two fishes, you know, chasing each other infinitely in a loop. So how do we get the fishes, the two forces, the feminine, the masculine, the feminine, to come together? That cross, that X, that famous X code, which is the particle of light. When we generate another circle, replication. And if we relate this to the most daily life basis, is when nobody occupies their own space. When someone wants to occupy the space of the other one, and they are chasing each other, trying to reach the first spot. And that's what happens in humanity, you know, the wars, the control. It's all about not knowing your space, your place. So when we understand that each one of us has a specific space, even our feminine and our masculine, then they replicate and they are able to come together to reencounter in one point and generate that I. And that I is related to the black hole, that famous all-seeing I, which is the black hole, because our planet, our system itself is in a black hole. So this is why we see everything in black. So that center, that I, generates, and it's the code that in religion has been used, you know, with the popes, with the fish in their hats, and with the Apkallu from the Sumerian, these hybrids that were fishes, half humans. Mostly it's related because we were in Pisces era, as we are in Pisces era, this is also because in the fish is the answer to the origin in the beginning, for the beginning. Like every zodiac sign has the answer to something in a specific. I'm talking about the origin.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt you for a moment because I wanted to know
Sure.
if Isaac or Sean had any questions for you so far, or any input, anything that they wanted to add to what you're saying.
Sure.
No, I'm good. Keep going. Yeah, the Pisces. It's interesting if I don't know how many people notice that, but in the Vatican, like the Pope, that hat that he wears,
Yeah.
the mitre hat. If you look at it sideways, there are eyes there. It's a fish head. And I don't know if you have that, Yssah, but like then if you look at I forget exactly who it is, but the Sumerian.
Oh,
If you look at the Sumerian, you see them wearing a like fish skin.
yeah.
So
Those
this
are
is
the
all these primordial creation stories, like so that's
exactly.
yeah. And the eye, I never thought about the eye as being the black hole, but that's what a black hole looks like. If you look at a galaxy, it looks like eyeball. Yeah, you're right. So anyway, I just connected that. Yeah. Or I wanted to make sure to point that out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like to bring up like the topic before you guys seen this. So like the astrology overlaid with anatomy and how our words go along with it medically. Aries,
Hold on. I think you want to screen share, Sean?
I thought it was.
Yssah has it. You
Okay,
stop
sure.
sharing, and then
That's
Oh,
why.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll do it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like with
Mhm.
anatomy wise and the different astrological signs
Mhm.
played and how they work with some of the anatomy words, and Aries representing the crown, and the ram, the cerebrum, the Taurus, the cerebellum, Gemini, the two hands, Leo, the hearts, like lion heart, Virgo, this stomach, what is it? Cancer, like the kidneys, Virgo, yeah, and then going down to where you're going into the 13th sign would be around the place of generation, how we went into previously with the Kundalini force coming up the spine from the dormant seed in the spinal cord or the root chakra, and because the Leo sun shines onto the soil, meaning spring, and then the snake egg hatching in the spring and then coming up the spine. And all the way to Pisces, the feet represented. This also like overlays with some of the coded stuff in the Bible, with how Jesus had the fish sign, and also washed people's feet, and being like he going through certain zodiacal signs, which I think it's called the Mazareth in the Bible.
Yeah, it means the 12 constellations, the Mazzaroth. Yeah.
And like being representing the sun, and then going through the 12 houses and representing also the 12 apostles, and him being like the 13th. Or people could also say Mary Magdalene representing 13th. But I also, with what I read, she having her own apostles kind of thing as her name. Magdalene means a watchtower of the flock. So
Well, I want to mention something very interesting with what you have said, because I mentioned it in the other interview in the other talk, in the other show. That for me, if we are going to play these these archetypes or these roles, Mary Magdalene is the 14, which is the electron that is orbiting. It's generating the curve. It's generating the curve for the matter to happen, whereas the Christ is the center, because the 12 is each one of the edges of the particle of light. And I have it in the screen, but I don't know to share it already, or maybe, but anyway. And yeah, shall I share it already?
yeah,
Or yeah? Okay.
Oh, and yeah, the kidneys, I mean, were Libra, sorry.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, because it's cosmic order, balance, cleansing. Yeah.
and the head, Isaac, right? The head, because you were mentioning that, Sean, like the fishes of Pisces are in the feet. However, if we take it to the religion, in the head they put the fish. So the end is the beginning, and the beginning is the end, and that is how the cycle fulfills. You know, like the completion of that, considering that Pisces is the first sign and not Aries, as in that diagram, the head is where the lamp is of Aries. So if we take Pisces as well, then it's completing the cycle in the beginning. You know?
Can you explain what these two images are on either side? Because I feel like I'm getting an activation while I'm looking at them.
Sure. Look, here we have the tree of life, known by the Kabbalah, in the bottom, in the center. And then we have what I did, which is on the right side, is that replicating that tree of life 4 times, interconnected by the center. And then we have the particle of light. We can see here the Templar cross embedded in red, and like the particle of light, you know, like that big code is just because we were given 1/4 of the information, 1/4, and this is related to the hypercube. We were given 1/4 of the information, and we are to complete the other 3/4, the 3/4. So, and on the left side, here we have the tree of life with 13 spheres. 13 spheres. So here is something very interesting. Here we can see the dot in the tree of life, in the common one, in the center. We have Keter, Vina, Chochma, and here we have dot. Dot is known as the 11th, but it's not always taken into consideration. You know, like they say that there are 10 spheres. The dot represents the unconscious. All the information flowing that we are to remember, that we are remembering, that we are bringing together. So if we take this to the turtle, the Mayans used to consider the turtle as Orion. And here we have the 13, let's say, the 13 hexagons that are in the center related to the 13 signs. And on the other side, we have 14. So that's the beauty. It's the way it completes the 13 signs of the zodiac. However, there is a 14 that is one with Pisces, and that's Cetus, and that's Cetus. So yes, there are 13, and there are 14. However, one are 2, like Pisces is one with Cetus. Because what happens if we take again the electron moving? That's the space. The 14 represents the space that it's silent, is not seen. It's the motion. You see the matter. You don't see that space that is generating for the matter to be curved. You know, it's like, for instance, yes, like talking about 99.99999% of space, you know, that is the importance of the 14, the Trinity, generating the Trinity, the capability to bring together. So yes, and we can see here the 2, the 3, and the 4, which are playing the role of Orion's belt. You know, that's the relation in between the Orion as a turtle in the Mayan cosmogenesis, or having Orion as Osiris in Egyptian cosmogenesis, or having Gilgamesh in Sumerian cosmogenesis, you know? So here is the 3. And just to, here we have like the particle of light. We can see it perfectly. On the left side, we have a shot taken from the particle of light. It's an X.
Mhm.
And if we place this X in the tree of life, multiplied or replicated 4 times, or 3 times, making it 4, then we have the particle of light.
Okay, so just to go back, those are images of a photon?
Yes. No, it's yes, taken. Just a shot taken of the particle of light,
Right.
and it's an X.
Okay, so Sean or Isaac, do you have any comments about this particular graphic?
Yeah, no, I've heard of that. Yeah, the particle of light is connected to the Templar cross, which I've even seen it laid above, superimposed above the pyramid, right? And then if you were to take the size of the pyramid and do the same thing, there's a match there. So then you start looking at, there's a cross, and then you look at what the Knights Templar were doing. They were protecting the bloodline of the Christ, the 13th sign. They were protectors of the light bodies, the ascension. How do you say this? So that 13th sign is connected to the ones who can ascend to and from, cross to the other world and back. So I believe that what this is saying is the Knights Templar were the protectors of the light beings, of the light. The pure light can travel to and from. So that's what I see this as. Yeah. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's interesting. It will link with a lot of things that are coming up in my mind that I've seen throughout esoterica. Yeah, so what I also see with this is so how was this taken exactly? Before I go into it,
How what?
how was this taken?
Well, someone specialized in chirality, just like got this image, and it has gone viral, you know, for a while ago. It has been taken for a while ago now, and I know about this guy who did it because he contacted me, actually. You know, once I posted it and I did a brief description and on that in communion with the Tree of Life, and then he wrote to me, and I cannot remember his name right now, but then I could see that all these images of him are registered on his name, you know? So
I could go a little bit further because I just looked this up in a website called cosmosmagazine.com, where it has these images, and it says Polish physicists have created the first ever hologram of a single light particle. Feat achieved by observing the interference of 2 intersecting light beams is an important insight into the fundamental quantum nature of light. So basically, we're talking about the hologram, but this was done by Polish physicists, and you can look this up and get all the details online if someone wants to go into the science of it.
Great.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was the smallest, the smallest we were able to photograph a light particle. I think it was something like that, when that was like, that's the smallest breakdown that we can photograph, and it looks like a cross.
And
Did I-
actually,
Look at.
no, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that. So this is where, the aha moments kick in, because we look at like the Knights Templar cross, and we don't know any of this. We're just like, oh, those dudes are wearing a cross. They're crazy. Now, when you know, like, that's the smallest particle of light and they're protecting it, then it's like, what the hell is going on here? What is it that we don't, like, how much more do we don't know?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll go a little bit more off to the side with this too, because I've heard that if you took an Oreo cookie, so you guys know what Oreo cookie looks like, right? And you look at the pattern, you can see this pattern of the photon throughout the whole shape of an Oreo cookie. So are Oreo cookies the food of the gods? And what does it mean when you dip them in milk? Is it symbolizing the Milky Way? I don't know. And what does the creamy center mean? Like, there's all kinds of ways you can read into, like, how does this feel? Like, are we getting messages from Oreo cookies?
Right.
And now if you see Oreo, it's like Orion.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe like Orion reincarnated into the human body, made a miscalculation, and wound up as the CEO of Oreos or something.
Right.
I mean, the creator of Oreos, then didn't figure it out until later. Nothing surprises me anymore. If someone told me that story, that this was a superfood of the gods, I'd be like, sure, of course. I know. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that you have mentioned this, and about the particle of light being, well, the smallest caption ever taken, I'm pretty sure that if they find an even smaller particle, they will get the same hologram, because it's the fundamental pattern, And when we take this to the medical astrology, it makes me remember about a diagram that they used to use, the neurologists, in order to classify how the brain functions, related into thoughts. And they would say, like, this part would be related just to discipline, whereas only this part of the brain, to religion, and this part, to fun, when you're having fun, and so and so and so. And of course, that was not, that didn't take long. Like that, that theory, because then again, from the quantum, everything is entangled. And yes, we have an order. However, this would bring a pretty simple answer to the fact that Pisces is the beginning and the bottom, and Ophiuchus being connecting everything, as in the DENDERA space-time table shows, because it's in motion.
Right. So, Yssah, can you stop your screen sharing for a moment? I want to share my screen, because I've got a cookie on my screen.
Oh, you got the Oreo cookie.
Too.
Yeah. Oh, you got one too? Okay.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Yep.
Yeah. So it really is interesting too, just the whole concept about how they have the star tetrahedron inside of a sphere, like the whole platonic solids concept. When you look at all this, there's a lot you can read from an Oreo cookie. Sean, what do you see in all this?
I mean, with the Oreo cookie, there's some, occult factions for sure involved, but like, if they're currently for our best interest, who knows? I mean, like, some of the cookies are a little haunted, but yeah, there's some organic variety ones that you will sometimes have the same pattern, so I recommend. With the whole thing on the hologram of photonic light, I got multiple things and I got some pictures, but
yeah, I'll stop my share, and you could bring up whatever picture.
I didn't, hold on, I didn't realize it had that antenna there. That antenna said something was, I never saw that. That's interesting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know, because that shape is the macabre as well. Like the sides look like the photon, and then the two triangles, it's the macabre, the light ascension vehicle, the light body vehicle.
Yes.
Right.
With
Wow.
that reminds me of this book I got called The Secret of Light by Walter Russell. Who
Oh, I've seen that book.
when you
Yeah.
look into light physics, there's not a lot. People barely know shit about anything, like how fire works, how water is at a deeper level. It's like our schools pretend they know everything, and like they're like everything's already been explored, and yet we have like over 10,000 pyramids in South America. So yeah, so like some of the artwork he went into in describing physics of light was very interesting. This is a lovely Purok table of going back between base and alkaline as like everything's connected, and like going back to singular photons, how they're all quantum entangled with each other, and some science is brought into. Here's some like the things he drew in this book. And yeah, it will resonate with that picture quite a bit.
Yes.
Oh wow, yeah, look at that.
Yeah, like that. I mean, people can freeze this if they want to go into it, but I'd recommend getting the book for sure. And
Well, the other, Sean, that you were, the one that you were showing, I'm sorry, but the other one that you were showing, that one, no, the other one.
Okay.
That one. Okay, the one above is a Merkaba as well.
Right.
However, it's contemplated from the 369 on the 369 code. That's the difference. So it's funded and it's embedding the vector equilibrium, which is the 369 code, and leading to the cube and to the hypercube, because if we say Merkaba, Kaba is cube. And imagine in Kaba is my name is. So how the name is also like this human vehicle in order to identify by the frequency, and the Kaba, like the Kabbalah or the Baraka, which is the three aspects of that in ancient Egypt would relate to Ka, which is the force of the spirit, Ba, which is the force of the soul, and Ra, which is the force of the sun. You know, going into different scales of consciousness. But yes, Kaba, cube.
Yeah, right. And when you like look into it all, like a lot of them were, it's really good physics on like the soul, them trying to determine all the aspects of the soul. I read there's more than what the Egyptians read into with it, like with what you're saying, with what I read into the Ba, like the soul personality aspects, like a large percentage of the soul, Ka, vital essence, life force, like the thing that maintains the soul and keeping it going alive. Ket's physical body, Sa, the spirit body, the Ren, the name or the identity, the Ba, the personality. Yeah, like what I wanted to. The Ib, which is like the heart, the Shut, the shadow, and the Sekhem, the power or the form of it, of the power. And I also read stuff like the memory capacity, the ability to remember past lives, because it also contains, the soul also contains that, but they're not labeling that, unfortunately, but there is that avenue as well. So like here's some more physics, like an artwork painting. Here's some stuff that will also go along with what your picture went into. And
the Pegasus cube. That's the connection to the cube, like, you know, in the interstellar or the stellar codes, the Pegasus cube, the God's altar.
Yeah, and I agree with you that like before the Pisces would have been around the feet, and I'd relay that it would be between the feet and the head, so also the chakras above the head in this like cyclicalness if you make room for a fucus near the region that makes life. But yeah, going into the whole, you can bring up your graphic again and share screen if you can do that back. It's fine.
Okay. Me or Chris?
Yeah,
You.
yeah,
You,
Yssah.
Yssah.
And
Okay.
with the Templar thing, yeah, I remember seeing that image the Templar cross all over Egyptian hieroglyphs. I went with Chris that one time. It was like a little sad because of how defaced a lot of the hieroglyphs were.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they like just like chiseled into people's faces and were testing to see if they're gold in any like behind the walls or something. And
Yeah,
they
this
were
is the Isis temple. Yeah.
yeah, they're defacing Isis a lot because they didn't want people to relate Christianity with an older symbolic sage such as Horus and Isis and the Virgin Mary and the whole story aligning well. And repeating over and over again because that is not the only time that Immaculate Conception happened. So yeah, so the Templar, there are multiple factions of there. There is good and there are bad. They like branch off from each other. They're very secret. There's even a branch that like was involved in the first time anyone found out that about Baphomet because they were worshiping in them, and then they got discovered and captured, and they explained about them worshiping that god. There's also like soft disclosure in this game called Assassin's Creed on the Templar being the main villain, but like they going after trying to access through DNA technology, reading people's DNA memory is the whole concept of the game, and bringing up in a simulation what they held in DNA memory so they could they paid people in a corporation to go through this in a simulation to find secrets from people that were in the past that might have known about ancient tech that they called like the I forget what it's called exactly, but it's like the technology of Eden. Like one was like the apple of Eden, or like some staff, the spear of destiny. There's all this kind of stuff, also relating to Anunnaki quite a bit in the game. So essentially the game was like, oh, they went after ancient tech from like Atlantis that was still around but in secret, and kept it around. They even had Saint Germain in one of the French Assassin's Creeds. He was crazy in there too. But yeah, so like, hey, is there factions of Templar that go around stealing ancient artifacts and like ancient tech from Atlantis and doing it for power moves? And I've even tuned into ones that gained some forms of time travel, so who knows? But yeah, and then the cross going into the four seasons, the symbol for Earth and the sun, the four elements, the whole thing with the Key of Solomon and the double cross that like overlays with Orion and the constellations and the three. If I had a picture, I'd bring it up, but the Orion's belt with connection to Pleiades and Sirius as like this big key lock hole in the sky that can be unlocked somehow. And also relating to the Key of Solomon, going back to a possible origin with humanity, as it points back to a point in Pleiades, though that's not the only place humans get their DNA from, it appears. And but yeah, go ahead, Yssah.
Well, yes, Sirius, Orion, and Pleiades. Well, speaking of of stellar codes. This is an image of the DENDERA space-time table, the zodiac table, mostly known as the zodiac table. And we can see Pisces and Ophiuchus, you know, I will show it in a little bit. Okay. The arrow is pointing to Ophiuchus. And the beginning of the arrow is Pisces. In between Pisces, there is the very peculiar cube. What is this cube? This cube is called as well Pegasus cube. And we can see that this cube is full of energy. So when we go speaking about Gnosis and secret societies and Templars and all of this, a lot of that before, or what used to be a hidden knowledge, was, for instance, the Bebenian stars or the fixed stars, you know, as these points, and the pulsars. The pulsars are these neutron stars that have a very specific range of intermittence of beaming that actually connects to our Earth. And if we know how to do that, what we are doing is directly connecting to the holographic field and using all those antennas that were anchored in order to align the human hologram into an updated system, you know, beyond the original human hologram. I'm talking about more about the cosmic rays. And this is why specific groups are so aligned within their realities, because they are using these systems like the Pegasus cube or God's altar, you know, because the frequency, not all among many other codes that this embeds, is how to use those algorithms, and when it is aligned at a specific point in a specific places, to unfold the energy in order to manifest, in order to order, in order to in very specific regions of the Earth. And I mean, you can do this at home. You don't have to. It amplifies the results. However, it's not like everything is accessible. However, you can see that I am overlapping here what would be if these two fishes represented by the ancient Egyptians were chasing each other as they are shown nowadays. This would eliminate the third force that we can see that is bringing those fishes together like an arrow, all the way directing to Ophiuchus. That force that is bringing those fishes together between the cube, then you can see the importance of what ordering Pisces is, because it's related to the cube, to igniting the cube, the Kaaba. Kabbalah, Allah, Kaaba, the cube of God. Kabbalah, the main basis within the astrological, astronomical, holographic anchor and resolution of configuration, is connected to the commonly known as Pegasus cube. Kabbalah, God's altar. And we can say that that's the dot, that's the 11. That's why the Kaaba is black.
Okay, so we're going to talk more about the cube and how that all relates, but I wanted to mention something for some people that may not know about this calendar system, that it was, I believe it was the year 1799, Napoleon and his savants, you know, they go to Egypt and they're looking to make all these discoveries. They go to the Dendera complex, and there is a temple there for Hathor. And on the ceiling, they see this zodiac sign that they immediately know is like important. So what do? I think they used dynamite or something. They blasted it off the ceiling. And if you wanted to see this live in person, I believe it's now at the Louvre in Paris. So
Mhm.
just to kind of give some people about like, what are these, what's this of, and so forth, because I know a lot of times you guys are so deep into this material. A lot of our viewers might be like, I don't understand this. Like, what are these different things? I just wanted to add some of the backstory to this. So,
Thank you.
yeah, and Isaac, is there anything you wanted to add as before we continue more and get more into the
Oh yeah. This is a really important zodiac because what this represents, from what I found, was this is the language or the connection of the stars actually coming into something that we can decipher in the Western world. So I think it was the Roman or the Greeks had something to do with the temple building, well, redoing the temple to represent the zodiac with Egyptian, with the Egyptians. So I think it was what I found, and I could be off or not. Was that the Egyptian cosmology is not, we can't decipher it unless, oh, we can, but this is a version that we can decipher. So this is why this zodiac was really important. It was saying, almost like Napoleon, right? Isn't he the one that came up with that Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, they discovered the Rosetta Stone so they can make
Yeah, so it's similar to that, but for cosmology and astrotheology, where it's like, oh, now we can decipher it because I have no idea that a pig, I see the woman holding a pig right here or whatever, right? That represents an eclipse. Like, we don't have that language. We have the language of this zodiac here. So they show this on the temple. And where Fucus is, you see where her arrow is pointing. That's right where he is in the sky. He is right between Scorpio and Sagittarius, on top of Scorpio. The myth is that he gets stung in his ankle by Scorpio, and that's because he's stepping in between the two worlds. So it's right here, it shows. And this is the zodiac. If you want to point it out, I don't know if you can point it out with your mouse, Yssah, but you can see Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn. So you can walk around and you can see the circle of the zodiac right here. See? So yeah, right where you were was good. But you can, if you can point it out with your mouse, like just point out like Scorpio with your mouse, and then point out Sagittarius behind them, right there, and then
Sag.
Capricorn.
Oh, it's cool. It sounds
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Capricorn, Aquarius, and then you can see Libra, and then you can see Leo down here. Like Libra in front of Scorpio, you can see Libra, the scales, and then Virgo holding the wheat a little down. And then you can see Leo, the lion. So it's all like the zodiac is there. And you can see here's something that's Egyptian cosmology that's not, that we can't decipher. You see in the middle, you see the cow's leg, the bull's leg.
Yes. Here. Yes.
Okay, that to a Westerner like us, we come in and we go, that's just a bull's leg. But that is the primary center point of all alignments of Egypt, of temple building. That's the Big Dipper.
Exactly.
So we wouldn't know that. We'd be like, oh, that's just a cow leg. That's the Big Dipper.
Really? Because I heard multiple perspectives. Either it could be the Big Dipper or going to Taurus, the leg of the bull representing like the cluster of the Pleiades.
Pleiades. Yeah, no, the bull is down below. If you go, you can point to the bull, Yssah. If you go, no, that's the ram.
But I got you. I know what.
Yeah, no. So that is the bull, the eye of the bull. But I don't know. It's just interesting how. Yeah, like, so if we would just leave it to Egyptian cosmology, we would have bull's legs and women holding pigs, and that's really important. We wouldn't know that. Because the bull leg is the Big Dipper. That's the northern alignment. And then the pig is an eclipse. So that's saying that when this was built, this eclipse took place in Pisces. See, if you can see the woman holding the pig, that eclipse took place while we had an eclipse in Pisces. So now you can, so it's a timetable. So now you can say this is when this was built. or this is the time that they're showing us during this eclipse in Pisces. When was the eclipse in Pisces? So anyway, that's just what I have to say about that zodiac.
There is something very interesting as well. With what you have said, for instance, I relate to this as a quantum machinery, because right now at this moment we have Nemesis in the orbit, you know, doing an alignment with Cetus, actually with Difda. It's pretty, I mean, we know everything is cyclic, and however, it's pretty aligned to the role play that specific elements in astrology are at this moment. So we can see here, you know, what some people relate to. Well, it's the Eye of Horus related to the moon, and nevertheless, right now, Nemesis is around here, you know? And by this, I mean, when I refer to this and relate to this as a quantum machinery, for me, it's giving us messages. Messages of what also is happening. Because from the quantum, you know, is like, and the hypercube, like all the timelines are spiraling and coming together, and the information is pulsing, and then we are relating to it. And like the studies that they have done through binary codes with the Torah and any given book, you know, like the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah, which has been like the most accurate. Like you ask questions and you're being given answers, you know, through binary codes. You just have to relate to a specific pattern and a specific algorithm. So for me, this is also a quantum machinery, and fulfills, you know, like from the moment that you were mentioning of the eclipse until now, you know. And well, it's pointing actually right to the cube, you know, to the gnomon cube, you know, the Pythagorean cube, where Ophiuchus is sitting, you know, from cube to cube. From
yeah, it's a god on a throne holding a staff with a snake on it, right?
Yes.
That's exactly what he is. He's the serpent bearer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's yeah. So the in Dendera, the zodiac that they put up, they did a replica of it, and it's black, because when they took it, it was black, right? Isn't that so? And then they cleaned it in the Louvre. Now it's clean, but they gave it back to Egypt black, like uncleaned, and you can't clean it because they made it black, right? So it's almost like, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, you can have your clock back, the timetable clock, but you can't read it because it's black. You can't even clean it because we made it black. We cleaned ours. It's in our museum in Paris. Like, wow.
It matches the story with the ceiling in Dendera's temple, you know. It matches the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Matches the dirty ceiling. So wild. And then they clean the whole ceiling, and then that thing is still black.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's below that Dendera below the moon cycles, right?
Yes, and I want to mention here with my mouse, I'm pointing to a very special constellation that once was called within the 48 constellations. This is Argo Navis. Argo Navis is also considered as the Osiris arc, or it is called by the Gnosis as the Golden Fleece, you know? And this is a very important constellation because it's the motion all the way to get to Sirius or to Sirius, you know? And why I'm mentioning this, when we go back to the Osiris myth, and it's the 14, how when he's dismembered by Set, like mind Set, into 14 members, then we can see that maybe the set, or how everything was set, is in 14 pieces. They don't find one, the penis or the phallus, so they get 13, which is related to the 13 zodiac signs. We could relate it, let's say. We could relate it to the 13 zodiac signs. And the 14, the power, which is also related to Fucus, because here we can see how related they are, Cetus to Fucus. You know, how she is holding and pointing all the way to Fucus. So there is a very important connection here, you know, and I have to double check the degrees. Whether it was like in but it was a very specific degree. It was set, you know, how they are connecting one to another. And here we have 14 archetypes, to say it somehow, all the way ascending, reaching out to the Eye of Horus, which can be related to the moon, which can be related to the mind, which can be related also to a mirror. And this pattern is how the calendar, the moon calendar, is thrown. The motion that the moon makes, for instance, in the Islam calendar, is precisely this. That's how they celebrate their festivities. And here in the back we have Thot, or Tehuti, which is commonly related also to the design. So it's welcoming all of these archetypes, so all of these 14 archetypes, to merge in the mirror. You know, I don't know if you, and here, this is a Sna temple, and again, 14.
You notice how I notice how they go, it goes in cycles, but the eye gets,
yes,
it develops at each phase of the 14, each of the 14 days. The eye develops, and then it wanes. That's the waxing and the waning of the moon.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
The phase, yeah. The daily, because 14, right? Is that what is in 28 days cycle, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing with the moon cycle, you know, that when we talk about lunar cycles, then the 13 is the center, is the galactic center of Fucus. And that's on the, let's say, on the blueprint, on the replication, form of replication, where two circles are sharing the center. But what happens when they duplicate as how human was designed? Because the cells duplicate, they don't replicate, they don't share the nucleus, they duplicate. So this is what I am reaching to, is that the 13 is the blueprint, it is the original. To reach that original, acknowledging that 14 is on the other side, 13 is what connects to the supra, 14 is what connects to the bottom, that it's touching the ground, because then the cells duplicate. And when they duplicate, then what we know as the Metatron's cube, which is the 6 spheres and the center, the 7, which is precisely this. It's this. Okay. Hold on. No. Okay, well, we have the cube, the Metatrons cube, and we have the 6 spheres, and the center is the 7. If we duplicate that, then we have 13, which is this. You know, we have the 13, and then, yes, the 13 here, you know, like 10 on the outside, and then 3. This would be the middle of the Metatrons cube, or the 7, have been duplicated, you know? But what happens when that's replication, I'm sorry, when it has been replicated. What happens when something duplicates? Then they don't share the same nucleus. 2 spheres, not two connected by the center as Pisces. There will become two circles, 2 different circles, and that's what the cells does. It duplicates. So connecting with that 14 embedded in the days, embedded in that force that generates the Trinity within Pisces, being Cetus, the big fish, then we are capable to recognize and to integrate the precise order within our biological system, within our biological rhythm of reproduction, of cycling. And just to here, even in the Mayans, you know, here there are 14. However, the 14 is the 14 is connected and considered as a whole, as the whole surrounding, not in the center. The center would be of fucus, but like the whole surrounding the motion. And for instance, if we take also the zodiac in the Mayans, 3 are connected to the snake. To Quetzalcoatl, to Sacbe, which is the Pleiades, the snake's tail, and the common serpent. You know, 3 snakes are given in the zodiac, in the Mayan zodiac sign, as would in the Vedic system would be to the moon, the 9 cubes. And again, you know, here we have the Sumerian one, and here we have Ophiuchus, you know, the serpent barrier. And again, we have one of the fishes just facing in a 90-degree perfect angle, you know, zero actually. So
where's this zodiac? I never saw this one.
This I don't know where it is. However, there has been it has raised a lot of polemic, because they say that the Dendera zodiac is a replica of the Sumerian one, just with specific adequations. So we can see that the figures here are, for instance, what would be Cetus is Lula and Laterak. You know, it's the same kind of force or code, like the strong force and the peaceful one laying back. But there are differences. Like for instance, here is
look at the great one. The great one's holding 2 snakes. That's the symbol of Ophiuchus. He holds 2 snakes. Right to the right where your mouse is.
Okay.
Can you see my mouse? No. Go all the way to the one on the right. The image on the right.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
My right.
To the right of the fish.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, that right there. Yeah, you have a better image of it on the other side, below. the next one, but then below it says the Great One, and he's holding two serpents.
Here, the Great One, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And they are connected by the fish. You
Yeah,
see?
right. But he's between Pisces and Capricorn. He's in Aquarius. Wait, what? That's Aquarius? No, wait a second.
It's supposed to be Aquarius. But it's all related because
Oh,
then
wow.
again, here, the cube, the water.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this cube full of water?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's leading to Aquarius era. You know, it's the energy, the interface,
Wow, that is.
the energy of the inner kava, the inner vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Huh, I never saw this one. That is really interesting.
I will share it with you. It's very interesting. It's very
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can see that in Osiris Ark, they have the raven and they have the serpent, but it's the feathered serpent. It's Quetzalcoatl,
Mm-hmm.
because Osiris is related to Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
It's beautiful how everything comes together.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
It is, and I want to like interject something, because in the past, Yssah and I have talked about this a little bit, but it has to do with this concept of the hypercube, the tesseract, and the human anatomy. So, like in the sacrum bone. So, now I don't know if you remember this, Yssah, or not, but in the sacrum bone, there's now 8 holes. Right. And if you let me share my screen,
Sure.
I'll bring that up for people to see what I'm talking about. But basically, and for some people, this is considered a Mandela effect. So you guys see the screen here? I'm on a site called Medline Plus. So you see the 8 holes. I was in my chiropractor's office like last year, and I'm looking at the charts I always look at, and all of a sudden I see 8 holes here that I swear I've never seen before. So, and I know that with a tesseract or a hypercube, there are 8 faces to that. And I've got another illustration here. This is like a rotating hypercube or a tesseract. But I wanted to just mention this and kind of get your input to see how this is all related together. I know there's a lot I just said there, but and then, like, does that have to do with our root? Like how we're connected to the earth? Does it have to do with time and how we're going to be understanding time? But if you or Isaac have any thoughts about that.
Oh, that one's for you.
Well, it is connected to the 8 original cells. To what is the 8 original cells? The 8 original cells are the blueprint of creation in the human hologram, and they are located in the coccyx, because the coccyx is, we used to have a tail. That is the 14 articulation. Now I call it the energetic articulation. It's like the movie Avatar, that they are connected through the tail. That's why also in some hieroglyphs, they would be depicted, they would be illustrated, to say it somehow, with a tail, but a fixed tail. Beyond it was also an artifact. They were trying to show the connection, the energetic connection to the Earth's nucleus and to the way out of the box in order to connect to the incubation, like going to the cube, to the let's say to the matrix, to the core of the matrix, and then beyond beyond space-time, you know. And yes, unfolding the cube, because even if you take the bottom and the top and the bottom of a cube, and this is a very common pattern in Islam, you have 2 squares like this, And if you unfold it or if you twist it, then they are creating an octagon, you know, and then it's connected to the octahedron and so on, you know?
Yeah, that reminds me. I'm going to share one more screen here with Salvador Dali and his famous painting that I never heard of before called Corpus Hypercubus, which I think
wow.
is really interesting, which is basically an example of how you unfold the cube. And I had never seen this before, but you've got Christ on the unfolded cube that represents, I believe, time, and how time, the whole concept of time is going to be changing for us. And, you know, before we were locked into the cube, and I believe the cube is going to start unfolding and unlocking, and we're going to start to just see our reality in a whole different way. But have you guys seen this painting before?
No.
I saw it through you. Like you once shared it with me, and I fell in love with this because it's precise, it's impeccable. It's the T code, which is the cube unfolded, you know? And for instance, the Mayas relate the T to the Ik, which is the breath of life, but I will go there later. Isaac, what's your input? I don't know if you want to share.
Oh, no, I'm absorbing that. I've never seen this image before, but it makes a lot of sense. Unfolding of the cube.
Yes. Yeah. And it has 4 cubes there. As an image that I will show to you later in Mayan iconography.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Did you want to go into the whole matrix cube things that we've been talking about, or not?
We can, you know what, we can talk about that like somewhat quickly, but I think people would definitely find that interesting, because we do find cubes like in our reality, right? Like with the cube of Mecca, for example, that they walk around 7 times counterclockwise, other buildings and structures that are shaped like cubes. But yes, please, Sean, go ahead.
If you're wondering why I'm wearing this hat, I have a bag of crystals under my head, and because I'm getting hammered by the Matrix right now.
Really?
So it's sending a bunch of negative energy. So yeah, I'm just taking care of that. But
thank you.
Tracking it back to some of those cubes that are like AIAS with stolen soul shards, and I accumulate and steal energy from people all around the planet. I don't have to say exactly where they are, but there's multiple of them. Some are older than structures and maybe had structures built around them, some as old as Atlantis. Some are like add-ons and amplify the AI signal. It's like negative add-on matrices in layers. But yeah, they're sending like death energy and others up. So everyone shield up. It seems like they're trying to steal from people a large amount of units of energy a second. And if people want to know why this stuff is important, why fixing the clocks is important, the reset. I got a list. Okay, so like if you were to compare and contrast the timelines, if we continued on as we are with our off skew time to one where we all decided, hey, let's go to the natural state that we see in alignment. It looks like a lot of 10,000 times greater growth, evolution, like 10,000, just do 10,000 times for most of these things. How you receive energy, how you integrate it. There's a deception. Every type of deception, delusion, lie has a parasite behind it. Sometimes it's small and not like meaningful, but like if it's a big lie that's been permeated for a while and a lot of people believe it, like a cult, then there's definitely some predator around it harvesting off of it. Belief versus knowingness in a truth that you have faith in or believe is empowering. when it's a deception and it's a dogma, it's a parasite. It steals energy from you. So releasing the deception and evil detachment 10,000 times, regaining sovereign control over ourself returned, 10-year lifespan increase gained back to everyone, forced external, there are, so like from all the stars and the constellations, each of these has a bunch of consciousness collected to it, each of the stars linked together in a rotation, and how they imprint, and there's like science behind this with the dewdrop and how it receives energy as the star rotates, and then the dewdrops form in the morning, and that being imprinted in astrology of how we are born, and the whole like cell cycle, etc. With the 12 major cell salts, which there might be a 13th. Hey, we'll have to look at that. And then like if you're in the womb, you for 9 months, then you your body has the ability to create 9 of the 12 cell salts, and you're deficient in the ones that you're not in the womb for. So then there's an increase in our ability to predict things 10,000 times more accurate. Truth and knowingness flows. Oh yeah. So like the star forces that would come to us externally, it's greater reception, as well as there's one like, so the 13 major constellations of more so, and also we have an internal one based on what we're born at, having to do with a link to the stars. Truth, knowingness, flow, lucidity increase, connection to the universe, our dreams increase, our ability to ascend, all this 10,000 times. The reality gets warped back in a good way, from out of the the manipulation it's been going through. Time repairs itself, becomes more free. Purification has like there's an autopilot in our body ability, and purification that increases. Remote viewing increases, psionics increases, knowingness increases. So there's a lot of reasons to correct this that is beneficial, especially even if like the audience that would be viewing this, that makes a major increase, which is why this is such a threat to that add-on parasitic AI right now. So, but if a larger and larger percentage of the population, like the 100th monkey effect, there's a big effect. Even if not the whole population is affected, we can get this information out there. This will definitely change the future in the predictive model and make everything in the game shift. So appreciate what you guys are doing.
Likewise.
That was the unfolding of the cube, the cross.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we want the cubes. So there's like a secret to unfolding the cube, releasing the negative matrix, the parasitic aspect of the matrix, the difference of like Earth's original pure hologram and its pure intentions, and what is added on in viruses and infiltration and negative control and manipulation, and what it means to purify that, and how much better this place will be once that happens. And there's like a to-do list to do, and every time me and Chris have been tuning into that, we get attacks, headaches. It's like they're like Big Brother trying to watch everything. It's really annoying, but I'm sure you guys deal with similar with like the movie and stuff. But yeah, there's some deep stuff to go down this rabbit hole that can be done, because they wouldn't be attacking us if it wasn't possible to free ourselves.
Wow.
It takes me, to Jordan and Petra, the gene cubes, like the genie cubes. And there are cubes. We can say that one of them, the most ancient ones discovered so far, on the surface. And that's where the cube of the known as the Kaaba started. Then they moved and they took the rocks the meteorite that is on the one of the corners, looking to one of the corners in the Kaaba, where everybody is like aligned to pray, and they took the stones and the meteorites and all the way to Saudi Arabia. However, they were first in Jordan, in Petra. And yes, Allah and Allahi.
What scene is this from?
By the way, yeah, this is I'm just playing a scene from this new show on Netflix called Tribes of Europa, and it's all about Atlantis and a cube of Atlantis. And I've only seen season 1, so I don't know where this all goes to, but basically cubes have been on a lot of people's minds, and I think there's going to be more and more shows and soft disclosure that starts coming out about this whole concept of the cube and what it could represent and how it's been possibly holding humanity back, but now it's going to be unfolded.
Exactly. It has already started. That happened on the hybrid eclipse. That something huge happened on that hybrid eclipse, and it was like the clock ticking out, and because it has begun from here to 2030, reaching to 2033 according to the Bactun 13, the Mayan code. Very interesting things will be happening, and full activations, and no matter what, now it's all about resonance. Like, are you doing your homework? Then you're safe. You're in resonance with the updates, so
I love that. That's a beautiful point. It's like, that's what we've been talking about with me and Chris, and we're of course watching people, more people dying, and there's various reasons, toxins, all the shistiness from the elite and depopulation, all that, but also like stuff with the sun and the evolution and the frequency and what is anchoring us down, and the resolution of that as like drip 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 of the sun evolution to where it's uncomfortable, and the dark has to double down more and more and more to, as the light increases, it has to steal more and more and more energy from various people that are anchored into it, like the sleep people, which is causing them more discomfort, suffering as they remain ignorant, and like pushing the darkness into those, like as the light releases and detaches them, the people that are like more aware of their need to seek greater and greater amounts of light, it pushes and detaches the dark that are then still anchored to the populace of asleep people. So it's going to cause, they're being pushed into a corner but are remaining anchored to the sleep masses, or the evil people, or the people that are immoral. And so it causes the dark to have to do more things and act, because it's like like an animal pushed into a corner will lash out. It also like looks as if more people are becoming more and more insane a little bit, unfortunately.
Well, that's tied into, this is where it all connects with 13. So remember the whole Maya cosmology of the 13 Baktun, where the world's supposed to end. It's the calendar ends. Well, I'll show you an image what that is. So on that 12/12, what is it, 12/21/12, the sun was rising in the galactic center, which is where the 13 zodiac sign is, which marked the end of an age. But really what it marked was, like Sean was talking about, all these entities are stealing light, is because we are entering into what's called the photon belt. This is where the light belt, and this is the whole concept of connecting to the Pleiades, which is why a lot of messages from the Pleiades was coming through since 2012. So I'll show you this image, and it'll make a lot more sense. it's part of my slideshow, but I'm not doing the whole slideshow. I'm just showing you a slide from it. So you see this thing that looks like a donut here?
Yeah.
And you see that star in the middle, Alcyone?
Yes.
That's known as the grand central sun. So I actually have a new son. We named him Alcyone. He's my grand central sun. But this is the Pleiades. Now you see this donut is called the photon belt. Photon means light, a light belt. And it's a 26,000 year cycle. That's our precessional cycle. We measure it at 25,920 because we're tying it in with the lunar diameter of the moon, tied into the 12 zodiac signs, each age averaging 2,120. Or is it the other way, 1,260 or something like that? But in any case, half of 26 is actually 13. And that happens when the sun on this precessional cycle on the winter solstice rises. Where did it rise? Where the 13th constellation was. That marked our entrance into this photon belt. See, here's our solar system is beginning to move in to this belt of light, which is why we have a lot of heightened messages from the Pleiades, because what travels through light and electric is information. So this is why a lot of us are receiving this kind of cosmic information. And like Sean said, we're kind of going crazy because we're receiving these messages through the photon belt from the Pleiades, who are supposed to be our evolved brothers and sisters and cousins of humanity. They're supposed to be like us because we share this cycle with them. So here we go through this photon belt for 2,000 years of light. So now it makes perfect sense where 2012, we end of the cycle. That's when the end of life. Oh, it's over. No, it's not over. What's over is the dark force of what is the shadow forces controlling us, because we're now being guided into the years of light. So now we're awakening. Now it makes perfect sense why we have chemtrails blocking the sun, right? Now it has perfect sense. And I don't want to get into the conspiracy thing and all this stuff, but it makes perfect sense that we say during this time, your DNA will be activated for this ascension process as we go into the light belt, photon belt, light belt. So it makes perfect sense that we would have a global vaccine that somehow interacts with your DNA. For what? So it doesn't get activated for this moment, right? We block the sun out so you won't interact with the sun. For what? For this moment. So now this is why we all gather and we all seem kind of crazy, because at this moment we have to awaken, or forever will our bloodline, our DNA line will be lost in this mass, whatever just happened with this vaccine could be gone. And this is why we're all fighting and we're all using all the technology possible. This is where we're at. And it all ties into the 13th zodiac sign. The one who can ascend outside of the sphere of control of the zodiac, the 12. So that's where we're at.
Beautiful. That makes sense. And then, like, how we're coming out of the precession, the equinox, the great year, the Iron Age, the destruction of Atlantis, and then coming out and then going towards light and it increasing in light, and as we rise up, like what I was saying, makes less and less bodies for the dark to anchor to parasitically, so they have to compress more in, which makes them more insane. And because if a being isn't learning from teachers of the reality, then their last teacher that they will learn from is suffering. And even if they hold on, they can't hold on forever in that regard until it forces them to learn, to choose a different path, because suffering and depression is like, oh, there's something wrong, you need to change. Or whatever, if there's like mind control going on, then that they'll try to keep that going. But that we're becoming more immune to mind control as we get exposed to it. And then that's how most people wake up. Like 70% of people wake up through betrayal, or they were told a lie, and then they're like, oh, I'm in I've been wounded, so I'm in hyper observant mode, so I have to equalize everything to make it safe again, and then to protect myself from dark truths, because in the beginning most people want to avoid those, but it's not good to avoid them, because that's how you end up more suffering through that ignorance. And with people that don't understand faith or hope entirely, I don't entirely like the hopium like pills and stuff that are being divvied out without full explanation, but I do believe there are infinite hopes and infinite faiths. We should align with that, such as it's gonna get better and better and better throughout the year, every like 6 months or whatever, and there will be more and more light coming in, but that also means the darkness will get more insane, so they'll lash out. So as long as you also become aware of that, then you can avoid their lashing out as their last screams of being compressed and dwindled down as we become immune to evil. And Earth does this like root chakra compression of evil, because we're like a super hybrid that mixes all the drama throughout the multiverse all in one. So we kind of got to resolve their stuff before we fully resolve ours. But
Isaac, I have a question for you about that concept of that diagram.
Yeah.
Do you feel that Taurus and the bullseye and Alcyon have like a connection to this progression as well?
Yeah, that's what Sean was kind of picking up on earlier when he were talking about the bull leg, and I was like, Pleiades. So the Pleiades are in the constellation of Taurus, and the bullseye, I don't know much about the bullseye, but I do know about Pleiades. That is like, they are that's our cosmic family. We are bound to the Pleiades through this photon belt. This is why even in Maya cosmology, there's alignments to the Pleiades, and and on top, I mean, Yssah knows, like that's the main alignment is Pleiades, and in Egypt it's mainly Sirius. It's Sirius, the star Sirius, and Orion, and where you get that's Pleiades, and that central star is Alcyon. So where you get the concept of the importance of the Egyptian New Year, with the rising of Sirius with the sun, the helioc horizon of Sirius, that it's said that we're actually not in a binary system, we're in a trinary system. So we have the Alcyon, the Pleiades is the grand pivot point, and Sirius, the star, is the mother, is another star that we align with. So when we have the helioc horizon, that's the mother star and the sun star rising, and this is where you get the image of Mary and Jesus. It's the same image of Horus and Isis, and I'll show you that image just so we can get a visual. And these are all the connections that are like, when you realize that we have these connections, you start to pay attention to the cosmology, and it makes perfect sense why we would have a zodiac that's out of alignment with the constellations. Because if you connect all of your information to the zodiac, what it's telling you is the clock, like I said in the movie. It's a cyclical clock, and if the ancients have been through this before, they mapped it out in these images. So if you understand that the cosmologies are all telling us a story, now you look at this and you say, this is the helioc horizon of Sirius. No one would guess that. They would say, no, it's not. It's Mother Mary and Jesus. And it's like, no, this is the star Isis and the star, our sun, SON, rising, right? Which is where you get the three stars of the belt stars. Those are the three kings. Look to the star for the east, and you will find the birth of our sun, right? The three stars are Orion, the Magi's. The Magi were who? They were astrologers. The three kings follow the bright star, they'll find the birth of the sun. How do you find that? On the Egyptian New Year, the birth of our sun with the mother, the Helioca rising. So this is all connected to cosmology of all of our cultures. And like Sean was saying, you know, this is the time where we're remembering all of this, and we have our past lives, and we're saying, yeah, I remember this, I remember that, I remember that. And it's like, well, you seem crazy because you just mentioned 25 lives. And it's like, yeah, well, we're ancient, man. This is why we can remember 25 lives. So this is the reason why I'm on this mission with astrology, connecting all of this, because it helps us give us a timeline of where are we with the cycle, right? We are now dawning on an age of Aquarius. We remember we're about to end the cycle. There's going to be a cataclysm. We're gonna just be wiped out. Now, how do we remember? Because the idea is on Earth is we're born with amnesia, and the game is you have to remember a little bit more than the past, so that way when you go and you come back with amnesia again, you might be just a little bit more wiser.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. In fact, I'm gonna probably be releasing a video next week. I call it gameplay, and one of the features of the game is actually amnesia, because we're actually, I consider us champion gamers, and if we didn't have amnesia, we'd figure out this game in like 2-3 lifetimes maximum. We're done, we're out of here, it's too easy. But yeah, having amnesia is like so important, especially like, you know, if we didn't have amnesia, we understood the Akashic records, we'd be like, oh, I remember you from a past life, and you know what. Yeah. But when you have amnesia, you've got no idea, so you have to like rediscover these things. But Yssah, I could tell you want to say something, so probably a lot. And I know we went sideways from your conversation, from your presentation, but yeah.
No, but amazing, because everything is connected. And now that I was listening to you guys, I want to say in a very punctual way that how I perceive it, for instance, being 13 zodiac signs, which I agree, you know, and I see the importance of igniting into the conscious collective, into of this truth, in order to start to apply it, you know, from a state of awareness. And what Cetus, the 14, represents is very simple. It's just acknowledging that throughout Pisces, there is this big fish that, encodedly speaking, represents the phallus of the interstellar seed, which is Osiris, in order to find the lost jewel of Orion, which is the phallus of Orion. The lost jewel of Orion is the phallus. So how can this influence just acknowledging that there is as another sign that is part of Pisces in March? Because if we see that each one of these holograms of these stellar codes are encode a specific part or sphere of information within the human hologram, what Cetus represents is precisely the capacities of telepathy, of sonolocation, everything that is connected to these beings, to these aquatic, subaquatic beings. And that if we integrate that in the human hologram, then we are simplifying what is already in our capabilities. So, and that's what hacks that matrix, because how do you hack, or how do you patch a program? You're giving a specific program, and then you raise information or a code that comes out of the blue, and that makes no any coherence, because it's not in the range of probability. So for the matrix, when you say there are 13, but there are 14, then imagine that the image starts to twitch. Like, you know, like making a short circuit. And then you introduce that patch, and then the torsion happens. You know, it's like when you say the energetic poles are going to shift. How? Like, explain me with apples. How is that going to happen? And then you can see, however, you apply for a quantum reality in order to understand how that's going to happen. So it's basically this, you know, like that 13 generates the unity, and just knowing that that patch is that Cetus, that presence of Cetus within Pisces, which makes the Trinity, because it represents, it encodes that big fish that ate the codes of the lost jewel of Orion, opening all the way, opening up to Osiris' arc. Speaking about arcs and the cubes and the Ark of the Covenant, and you know, so yes.
Thank you. And then Isaac, we were talking earlier about like the merging of galaxies, I believe. And can you just, because I thought what you said was really interesting, can you just explain that to our viewers?
Yeah, let me show you an image, because this is what I found. So, because you know, in Maya cosmology, it's called Shubaba, and
okay.
Then there's all these images of the cross. So it's just like, well, there's got to be something kind of. Where's the science? I always like to look at, okay, what is science saying about all of this? And I'll share that part too. Hang on a sec. I'm just gonna find that one slide. Here it is, right there. You see right here, Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. That image. So that is the galaxy. Here it is again. And this is like a more of a better image. So here's our galaxy, and then this SGR galaxy, Sagittarius dwarf, is merging right here at the galactic center, GC, right here. So, we just, you can even look it up. In 1994, we found it. We found that, oh, there's actually a galaxy merging with ours in the galactic center. Wow, there's a pulsar. Where? In the galactic center, right where that galaxy is coming. This is where Quetzalcoatl and the Maya shamans, like in this image, they say, we go to the galactic center to commute, to talk with our elders and bring back messages of wisdom. And I thought I had the image here. Here's an image right here. Like, here's the connections. See that image?
Actually, if you stop your screen sharing.
Oh yeah, all right.
Like a.
Oh yeah. Here you go.
There we go.
Yeah. So this is the Milky Way actually on its side. That's what it looks like. And he's in what's called the Great Rift. The Great Rift is where the 13th zodiac sign is. The Great Rift is where the pulsar is. The Great Rift is where the galaxy is merging with our galaxy, the crossing. And he's on a step pyramid, ascending to the home of the gods, to commune with the gods. So, right? So there's all these connections to that, there being a real galaxy there. And then the part about the photon belt, we go, oh, it's photon belt, the belt of light, the Pleiades. And then you can say, oh, that's kind of woo-woo. NASA proves it too. They call it the local fluff. Yeah. They say our solar system is currently traveling into a place that we call local fluff. We don't know what it is. We had no idea it existed. But it's filled with highly charged magnetic particles. But we didn't know it was there. And I'm coming from this angle saying, well, they did. The Maya knew, the Egyptians knew. How come you didn't know? And then slowly mapping it out. I think they're calling it I forget the name, but they're slowly mapping it out with the limited technology we have, and the shape is slowly forming a donut or a toroidal field. It's called a fluff, no, something, whatever, local fluff, it's something else. It's slowly mapping it. It's becoming what we know it to be. But they won't do it because science has to do its slow thing. They don't go to the ancients. So that's what. Did I answer your question? Because that was that.
Yeah, it did. And when I didn't realize you're going to bring the local fluff into it, but I've definitely been looking into the local fluff because I feel like that whole concept is really important. And like, have we been in the local fluff for a long time? Are we like going to find an exit point where all of a sudden things change? Like, how does that all work? So I'm as soon as you said local fluff, I'm like, yeah, local fluff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense. So you have, so if you look, okay, so this is where it made perfect sense. Because, you know, I'm also an astronomer. So I do astrophotography. And somebody, I forget who it was, pulled up the image of the Pleiades, right? And if you notice, I don't know, I think it was Sean, if you could pull it up again. If you notice, it looks like it has wispy clouds around it, right? That is the fluff. That is the highly charged magnetic particles around those stars of the Pleiades. But the Pleiades exists within the photon belt. So this is why we're seeing glimpses of the Pleiades looking wispy like this. Because we are seeing them through this parts of the photon belt. So they are in this magnetically charged, highly magnetically charged dust that we call it, which is why they are evolved, or they are said to be evolved. And they're saying to us through these messages through the photon belt, you've reached the photon belt, we can communicate with you easier, right? Because now messages travel through light. So now you're in the light belt with us. We can send you messages on what to do so that you can ascend and join the cosmic family, because the controllers on your planet want to hold on to this slavery that you're in. We want to get you out of there. You listen to these messages, and like Sean said, that's why when we listen to these messages and we try to do what they're telling us, we're stamped as crazy. And Sean has a wizard's hat with a bunch of crystals, and people who don't know will be like, oh, that dude's fucking crazy. But crystals will bounce out the negative forces. I mean, I have a crystal in my hand that when I'm talking, I hold, because I know what they do. This is piezoelectric, right? So we have to hold this in order to take away this vibration that's trying to imprison us through the form of parasites, like Sean was saying.
Yeah,
Our foods have parasites. Some people even say, as far as it's possible that the so-called COVID situation is a parasite, which is why when you take ivermectin, you get rid of it, which is how I got rid of that COVID. I took the ivermectin. It's an anti-parasitic. So we might be dealing with a parasite that has entered into our systems. And that's where we're being taken over like that.
And we're in the detox process.
Huh?
Yeah, we're in the detox process. And
yeah.
Like, oh, why you got crystals and stuff, and why you use that on your head? They get rid of my headache instantly. Like, like little nurses that pull out the crap that shouldn't be there in entanglement with my crown. Anything that wants to interact with you when you're enter a haunted environment, there's reasons why you get headaches. I barely ever get headaches unless I'm getting something entangled with me, and I can get rid of them super quickly. I'm super good with them. So and the people that are adverse to crystals, they just didn't do enough research, and their ego is like hyper focused on like, oh, these wishy-washy spiritualist new age people are not taking responsibility for their own actions and stuff, and they're putting it all towards the stars. It's like, yeah, there's some people that do that, but also there's some real science to it. Like I think one of the Rockefellers said the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is they believe in astrology.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like just going in with personality traits and how to choose lovers, but like how to predict things and the rising and falling of civilizations. how our crystals are every type of technology, the computer you're watching this on, silicon chips, or trilbytes of data. That's all impossible without crystals and the recording data. So like there's technology to do this, and there's elementals that anchor into the consciousness. So anyone that says that I'd love to debate you and like show you how wrong you are. But yes, yeah, totally crazy. But join us.
Right. Join the
Join us.
bright side. Yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, too, I think like the magnetism has something to do with it, because they say the local fluff is like highly magnetized.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Earth's magnetic field has been weakening, which is a good thing. Like it allows more data to come at us, even whether it's from the sun or the galactic central sun or wherever it's coming from. So, and that's only going to increase over the upcoming years. It's going to get more and more and more.
I don't know. You can look this up. There's something called magnetite crystals in our brain.
Magnetite, that's one of the secret crystals that I found out is super good with healing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a psychic crystal. Yeah. And someone mapped it out. I had a whole presentation I gave to my astrology students. They mapped it out where it is on your head. And they called it the crown of thorns, like Jesus, because this is the seat of consciousness. So that when those magnetite crystals are being activated, this is the crown of thorns. It's just fascinating. But that's how birds travel with the magnetic field of Earth, through their magnetite crystals in their brain. It's known, the bees and the birds, right? Do you know about the birds and the bees, right? You know, these are all like little stories that and you think it's about sex because we make it all sex, but no, the birds and the bees is about survival through your intuition, through the magnetite crystals. There you go. Yeah, magnetite, the crystal in our brain. Yeah.
With the one time I tuned into the local fluff and I was like, oh, it's like a trail of evolution. As we go through it, it's like levels, and it has phases to it. Right now, we're entering into it. It was mostly into like, okay, well, you got all this, like the local fluff has got consciousness. But this is how it's treating us. It's like, okay, you got all this stuff going on that we got to get rid of before you can embrace us fully. So we're gonna get you into shadow work and facing that shadow, transmuting it, turning the shadow into light, transmuting the lead into gold. And a lot of it's like detaching and letting go of all this darkness and that shadow work and portaling. It's like a little surgeon portaling away the negativity second by second, moment by moment, as we're entering into it, and that will increase. So after we're in it for a while, we'll get out of the shadow facing zone into like more out of the root to the sacral to the solar, going forth until like the golden age kind of.
Right. Well, what you just described is the shaman's journey. I don't know if you guys done ayahuasca plant medicine. It's exactly what it is. You know, you start to see your colors and you go, yeah, I'm going to go on a ride. And then some energy stops you. Not too fast, buddy. You got to see what it looks like. You got to purge it out. And then you purge it out and you go through hell for about 3 or 4 hours. And then after, they say, okay, come now. Now you've been cleaned. We're going to take you and show you the stars and all that stuff. That's exactly where we are, I think, on the galactic scale. Well, you were going to say something, Yssah?
Yes, like if you connect the local fluff and everything that what you were mentioning about the photons belt, and it's like generating with through along with the magnetic field. Like how I see it is this torsion motion being generated, you know, and by torsion it's the torus, just like the Ouroboros, the snake, fully completing fully eating itself, you know, like going all the way through, which is this process of full regeneration, which is what you're saying in other words. And along with the magnetites in the brain, you know, I've been doing some research about a specific parts in the brain that actually are related as I call them the input, like how you connect with the matrix or disconnect with it. And it's related to the claustrum. It's this huge neuron that it's interconnecting the whole brain. And now that you were mentioning this, the magnetites, you know, like the belt, the magnetite's crown, to say it somehow, like the claustrum has a capability of like going beyond, you know, that's therefore the name claustrum, because it can bring you to this bow, you know, or beyond that. And they were doing some research with why I say this. They, like, some neuroscientists were doing a research with a woman that had epilepsy, and they were like experimenting with different parts of her brain in order to see what was generating that. That for me, it's some pyramidal neurons that they generate oscillation. So when they super stimulate, you know, like right now, how the humanity is somehow like super stimulated, how we are at some point, because that's when just in the moment when the things are going to torsion, you know, when everything amplifies. So they were doing that, you know, like doing some research or which part was generating. And at some point, they touched the claustrum. When they touched the claustrum, the woman went off, like eyes wide open, not moving, like going into a coma, breathing and all of that. And as soon as they stopped touching it, she came back again. Like, what happened? You know? And so yes, it's such a big moment that I'm very grateful that we have chosen, well, that I have chosen to be in the earth, you know, like I don't get bored. That I tell you guys, I never get bored. And
Same.
yes.
I just pulled up, thank you, Yssah. I just pulled up, as we were talking about magnetic things, it reminded me of something called cryptochromes. And humans have, there's 2 genes that we have, they're called cryptochromes, that allow us to sense magnetic fields. Now, I had never heard about this before, so I've talked to some people. You guys know I probably talk about Mandela effects, and I'm part of this group that talks about like body changes, like our heart is in a different location, it's in the center, and the kidneys are up.
We've always had cryptochromes. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so, but isn't that...
We always had a second heart. Well,
yeah, well, but I think it's really interesting about all this talk about magnetism, and now our bodies, our avatars, and our eyes, we can detect magnetic fields. So all of these things are starting to come online. I think the future is going to be pretty cool.
It is. Yes.
This is why there's a war for our consciousness, because our consciousness, what you think is simple. What you think is what you see. What you see, you create. What you think you see, you create. So if you think you're looking at a demon, they make you believe you're looking at a demon. You're looking at a demon. You're going to create the demon. You're going to create that. So we are learning how, or remembering how to see beauty and light, because we're going to create that. But it's a challenge.
Yeah, that and the whole abracadabra concept that you create as you speak. So
yeah,
super manifestation, like learning how to use that, like can the frequency of our voice and the vibration that we put out, like can that cause an effect on the reality? So there's oh my God, there's just so many different levels to this.
And yeah,
we've heard that thing, right? Spelling, right? Yeah.
There are very interesting statues and hieroglyphs in the Mayas, well, in every culture, ancient culture, but now speaking about the Mayans, that they show how the energy has to curve in specific parts of your body in order to reach, for instance, here, to stop let's say, the limit generated by the interferential waves then how you shall move and curve the energy within your brain and with your creative energy in order to generate that motion, that torsion that will unify your hemispheres and see and perceive with your heart, you know?
Right.
Like in coherence, from a state of coherence.
Yeah, bringing our heart to our brain, being able to see that way.
Yes.
Sean, what were you going to say?
Going into what when even if what we're perceiving is like something that we might be afraid of, such as a demon, even if it like, even if we don't want to believe or whatever, if it's just coming forward, how we perceive that in itself can be shifted, because how we interpret things with the brain. Like, for instance, when I was first like dealing with things spiritually, if a dark entity came to me, I'm like, oh, get away. And then now I'm like, oh, okay, I gained ability upon ability and knowingness and able to tune into a being's heart. And then, okay, I don't just see a demon. There's the whole history behind what this being went through, what it got to, how it became the way it is, how even evil is created, and all those can be felt into with love, acceptance, goodness, and reaching deep to the core of that being's heart with love, and then bringing that light to it so that it reminds itself that it is ultimately you in the connection with the whole universe, and that it with loving boundaries, of course, so that you maintain your light and don't have any darkness put on you. You can shine your light to those that need it and bring them out of that place to bring polarity and opposition to balance and unity and peace, so that even these dark beings that would see us as an enemy start to realize we're the antidote for them, and that we're worthy of being protected, and then we can send them after the real threats, whittling down eventual threats to where there's almost nothing, if that's a perceived timeline, though there's still probably going to be evil isn't darkness, but darkness is easily susceptible to evil because it doesn't have moral code. But there needs to still be a balance of the forces, yin yang, that strive for growth in the chess game between each other, that will push us farther. So with integrated more peace, that'd be an interesting thing to view.
The other day I was sharing with a dear friend, a very renowned scientist, and we were talking about the coherence, the ground state. And I was saying to him, like, well, we are a torus, It's like we apply the torus, and the torus orders all the information that it's coming in. It's like it doesn't reject any information. It doesn't set or cast away anything. It just brings it all and orders it. It's like the thing is, when the cognitive state comes in, and it relates to all the patterns about the unconscious patterns about good and bad, and mostly, one of the most archaic part in our body is the amygdaloid body. And the amygdaloid body is the one in charge of generating the survival instinct. In other words, fear. So every time we're listening to anything that is stimulating our ears, goes directly to and by frequency, not even noise, because then you will ask, what about deaf people? Well, it's just about the frequency that it's coming. This is why they are also locating all these brain devices, like the simulated reality here. Their focus point is here, because here is the amygdaloid body. So they are fully stimulating the survival instinct. And that's it. Because every program, as everything is a program, every recessive program is sustained in the survival effect, the survival instinct, you know? So,
Wow.
yes, yes, so yes, it's very interesting how everything connects. And speaking about which, you know, this stage that we are facing right now, what it's been more stimulated is the survival instinct. Are we going to do it or not? You know, are we going to activate our arcs, you know, like the arcs that each one of us left underground, or are we going to fully activate this arc? You know, I don't know what you think, what you guys think about the mother spaceship the Earth can be, you know, like this theories about Nibiru being capable to go the full planet, you know, from one system to another. And if we do so, for me, what the bullseye mainly represents is the Stargate, the gateway, not the Stargate, the gateway from the solar system to Pleiades. And Sirius being the Shilantia, the connection to Urantia, as the former expression of the Earth. And then now Gaia or Guyana being where we are heading to. Like, we know the time is not linear, however, you know, like heading to Alcyon's blue sun. You already headed there. I think you already have your Alcyon sun.
Yeah.
Isn't that related to Aldebaran as well? The
Aldebaran is the eye of the bull, yeah.
The bullseye.
Yes.
Aldebaran, the red eye of the bull.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I gotta get rolling soon. I gotta get my
I understand. We've been talking for a long time. There's just just one last thing.
Yeah.
I want Yssah to talk about Mexico in October, solar eclipse, and you know, in the future we'll give more information about this, but just at the very least give everybody kind of like a teaser about something that you're working on planning for the solar eclipse.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for mentioning that, Chris. And since the hybrid eclipse took place, there is a gateway that opened, because let's say that throughout that hybrid eclipse, the specific artifacts located in where the eclipse was mainly seen, which is the southern hemisphere, mainly in the Antarctica, that some cubes ignited there. And in order to generate some balance, there is a specific cube in la peninsula of Yucatan that shall be and continued to be ignited. We already started phase 1 of that labor. And ever since that happened, a lot of technological manifestations started to happen. That's why I was laughing when you guys were saying about some forces limiting the transmission of truth, because it amplified since that labor was done, that energetic configuration was done, because these cubes are related to the 12 nodes, the 12 trine nodes in the earth that are connected to the 12 gateways or wormholes that were settled, connected to the pyramids in pre-cataclysmic time. And when the cataclysm happened, then those gateways torsioned And as everything in the earth, that's why before in Egypt there was water in the Sphinx, around the Sphinx and the pyramids, and now there is desert. So now, as the energetic poles are shifting again, then these gateways will. So for the process to be more, to ease up the process within humanity, humanity has to step forward in order to compensate everything that has been in dissonance for a few years now. And that involves aligning to the frequency of some cubes, as in everything. One of these cubes is the one that I mentioned in Yucatan. And Pakal, known as the astronaut, was the keeper to that cube. And that cube is connected to the pyramid that is in between La Península de Yucatan and the Cuban island. And that pyramid where the 13 skulls are to be located, relocated again. So this cube is connected to the cubes in Petra. The cubes in Petra, before the other kind of cubes were inspired precisely in this kind of technology to generate different effects, like what you were mentioning, Chris. Before, what they were doing, they were compressing energy and emitting that energy and nourishing that energy to all the pyramidal complexes. So now the purpose of this trip is to connect with that cube within the inner cube that connects to the God's cube as a stellar code, in order to generate all that energy from the Pisces era to Ophiuchus. And with everything that we have been mentioning in order to reconnect with the Pleiades. Reconnect, we're already reconnecting. I'm just saying to ease up again, to use the energy that has been generated from the interferential wave on our behalf. So we will be visiting places like Palenque, La Camja, of course, Toninam, Chichen Itza, Uxmal, very specific lakes that are in virgin places, virgin, you know what I mean, no, for today, because before there are already settlements, and they're doing very interesting findings there, and we have the opportunity to go. My partner and my partner is has a doctorate in archaeology, and will be also guiding all this trip along with me, from a very unified vision, and probably Isaac will join us, and to share more Mayan cosmogenesis, and to unify history, to unify history and occupy our place, and for the energy that is aware of this, hold the cube instead of other kind of energy takes the cube and the energy of the cube, just for us to occupy our space and feel in the energy of the cube with this new consciousness, for it to expand and spread along the interface, the water interface. That's why we are going to virgin lakes, well, to remote places in very specific points where the origin for the Mayans started, the Mayan cosmogram, like Metzaboc and like Lake Cibal, and which are in the Lacandon jungle. And to finish, in the Mexica's Ankh, how I call it, or the Mexican Ankh, which is the only the key of life, is the only Mesoamerican structure so far that has been found that embeds the key of life, the Ankh. I have an image to show.
Yeah, so the solar eclipse is on, I believe it's on October 14th.
October 14th, that's accurate.
And this whole trip sounds like it would take at least 10 days to visit all
10
the
days.
sites.
Yes, 11 days.
11 days.
11 days.
We can get access because your partner is an archaeologist and he's got special access where
Exactly.
normally they say, no, you're not allowed here, but we'll put on our Indiana Jones hats and
Exactly. And of course, because it's from a level of consciousness where we are unifying the story, the history and the stories, in order to remember who we are, and remember all those pieces that if you're coming is because you have memories here, in order to give more sense to the puzzle and occupy the space that belongs to, that corresponds to each one of us in this whole role play. So
I just noticed this thing where you said that Eclipse was the greatest. Why is there straight lines on this map, like right here? Just like weird, like, oh, let's block that out, or is that like some actual structure in the water? Who knows?
It's amazing. Those are structures, and you know where the Bermuda's Triangle is? Well, those are those wormholes that were regularized, that were controlled, that were managed at some point, and that after some things happened in Atlantean times, then it was like a hose, you know, like it still has a specific pattern, I must say. It has a specific pattern. And however, just a few people apply to it, and the rest is like just the effect and not the cause, being capable to handle all that information, you know? Yes.
So if Isaac, you gotta go, right? Oh, you're muted. Still muted.
Yeah, I gotta get rolling a little bit. Yeah.
Can you tell us how people can reach you and contact you and plug your info?
Oh yeah, well you can go to Sidereal Astrologist or TrueSiderealAstrology.com, or you can go to LearnSiderealAstrology.com, or you can go to, I have a Facebook group called Sidereal Revolution. You go on that, and that's how you can find me.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
How about you? You said, how can people reach you? And
well, I have a flyer to share, and there is the address, the email address where they can find me. I'm going to share it if you don't mind. Share.
Just go to that pyramid.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like symbol, yeah.
He lives there.
Yes. Hold on.
Isaac, are you doing anything in the future with projects and stuff?
Well, I teach astrology courses, but trying to figure out another trip to Egypt, either a big trip or a small trip. We don't know yet. More about, you know, astrotheology connections, cosmology connections in Egypt. So that's kind of what's on the plate right now. And then I'm going to be speaking with Yssah. I might be doing something. I might go to Mexico for this. We're trying to see if those dates line up for me. It looks pretty good, so we just got to go over the details. But yeah, so that's pretty much the fall and the winter. So
yes.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Let's look to
because
the stars.
we are organizing it,
Yeah.
it will be amazing, you know, going to places that not everybody can reach, sharing about all these codes, the connection in between Egypt and in between the Mayan culture. For instance, here there is this is in Palenque, and it is in the temple of the crosses. It's a complex of 4 temples with crosses, well, related to crosses, and this is called like the tree of life. And we can see, well, this I found it just 2 days ago, that if you link all these small, how they call them, noses or icks that are all over the iconography, you get the serpent of Ophiuchus.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yes, I had to flip it. It's the way around.
Wow.
But there you have Ophiuchus, you know, and
Wow.
here you have this very same art, tree of life with the connection of Xibalbá, which is also in Pacal's tomb or sarcophagus or capsule.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we will be sharing all this information and having a lot of fun. There is like even ceremonies involved with the oldest shaman in the whole Lacandon community, and staying in very cool places in the jungle, but hotels, listening to the monkeys, listening to all the. It's amazing. I mean, and the purpose of just connecting with yourself and all this technology and like the spirit, the science of the spirit, it's amazing.
Is there going to be like a limit as to how many people can go on this trip?
Well, we're trying to keep the group not that big because of the places that we will be going to, you know, and but we are talking about 20. Yes, because we will also be doing something in one of the places and like a connection. And Tonina, it's amazing. So I just want to show them, but here. Are you looking at it?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to. Now you're looking at the full screen. Okay, here. That's it. The name is Unifying History, Encoded Parallelism in Ancient Civilizations, Mayans and Kemet. And well, here's my address, omnivision.hunuh@outlook.com.
Is there a website for this too?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yet, but I will be sharing the information in other videos, and yes, we will be reaching to that point, you know, in order to give all the information, the program, the prices, everything that it's needed. For now, you can reach that email and you will get a response.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. It's going to be fun. Anyone watching too that wants to be part of this, it's going to be an epic trip. So, and there'll be a cutoff of, like Yssah said, probably about 20 people. So hopefully you'll get the information soon and we can do whatever is needed to give you a deposit and get locked in, get our flights and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Great.
Well, I want to thank both of you, Yssah and Isaac. Really appreciate like your insights and all the knowledge you bring. Sean, is there anything in conclusion you'd like to say? You plug your site?
Yeah. Well, plug yours and I'll plug mine.
My website's quantumbusinessman.com. I have a YouTube channel called Quantum Businessman, and you can discover more about the reality and how it works and how to play the game on my site, and especially with some upcoming videos I'm about to post. Sean, what about you?
Psionic League, psionicleague.com, Psionic League YouTube, Sean Bond.
a lot of video products and abilities there for you, and I'll be doing meditations and events and trips in the future. Yeah, and share this as much as possible. The more people we see it, the more we'll want to do more of this, and we'll invite these two lovely guests on more often. Leave in the comments if you want to see them more, and yeah, let's smash that like button, click that notification bell, and share, and expand the reality of the sleep and the people that are anchoring us down, and as we rise up back into our power. Thank you all for coming. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
So
Thank
much
you,
fun.
Chris, Isaac.
Okay.